Just a quick disclaimer before this video begins. I hope you'll forgive the look of it. It was filmed over about a 2-week period. What happened was I started doing a video and I just kept having so much fun with it that I kept adding to it. So forgive the fact that it looks kind of cobbled together, because it was cobbled together. Basically, I just kept adding things to it, so the lighting will be different. It's obviously filmed at different times of the day and different days and all that. But I hope you can forgive all that and just enjoy the content. Thank you very much. Hello there, Keith Smith here. Today I want to just talk to you about some tips and tidbits and little things that I've picked up along the way about whips. Whenever I start getting the same questions over and over and over again, that's when I know it's time to do a little quick instructional video. So I'm just going to hit several little tiny tidbit topics today. There's a lot of people that get a little confused when they're ordering a bullwhip or want to know how to order a bullwhip as far as the length. So if somebody says they want a 10-foot bullwhip, what does that mean? What is it measured from where to where? So to demonstrate, I'm going to show you this beautiful 24 plat kangaroo bullwhip made by none other than Joe Strain. This is a 10-foot, and the reason I wanted to really show you this one is because it does have a wrist loop and it has a standard fall. So when you say you want a 10-foot bullwhip, okay, that does not mean the wrist loop. That does not count. 10-foot means from the heel knot all the way down to the fall hitch. So then from the fall, you've got most falls for a bullwhip of this length are anywhere from 29 to 32 inches. So that's almost another 3 feet. And then you add the cracker. Once you add all that, that's about right at a little bit more than 3 feet. So if you chew the math on that, with a 10-foot bullwhip, there's 10 feet plus an extra 3 for the fall and cracker, so there's 13, plus the length of your arm is approximately about 2 feet. So with a 10-foot bullwhip, you can hit a target 15 feet away. So that's also something not only when you're ordering a whip and thinking about a whip, but you have to think about what kind of space you have. Do you have a small yard? Are you going to be doing inside work, stuff like that? Are you a performer? So are there low ceilings? So if it's a situation where you're going to need no more than 12 feet, you're going to have to stick to a much shorter whip than you might have thought, because you have to add in the length of the fall and the cracker and the length of your arm. So that's just a little something to think about when you're ordering a bullwhip. Now I want to talk a little bit about synthetic versus kangaroo bullwhips. There is a huge divide in the whip world as far as some people only like kangaroo, some people only like nylon or other synthetics like Whippa. I love both, and the reason why is because both have great pros and cons to them. With a synthetic whip, this is a Whippa whip made by Simon Martin of beautiful Australia. These things are almost no maintenance. They're pretty much impossible to destroy. You can crack them a billion times and they always come right back. The Whippa lace is just incredibly strong. It never frays. The only thing you have to do with maintenance on these is basically put on a new cracker. They are so low maintenance, it's unbelievable. Whereas when you have a kangaroo whip, there's not a lot of maintenance, but you do have to do a few things. You do have to condition it a few times a year. I typically don't like using kangaroo whips when it's wet. I just don't. I like to baby my whips because I want them to last forever. I know a lot of people, oh, you can use them. I know you can use them out in the weather, but I just don't. because they are wonderful pieces of functional art. So I really baby my whips. So one of the biggest things that you need to ask yourself when thinking about buying a bullwhip is, what am I going to use it for? How fast do I want to be able to crack it and move and things like that? Do I want to mainly do fast sport cracking, slow cracking, targeting? What do I want to do? And then you have to think about your specific environment. Is it extremely wet? Does it rain every day? Is it nice? Do you have anywhere that has like smooth surfaces like grass or a basketball court or something that's smooth? Because you don't ever want to use any whip on asphalt, concrete, anything that's abrasive. You always want to use it on a nice, smooth surface, because any of that will chew whips up really quickly, and that's terrible. So when you're thinking about buying a bullwhip, you have to think about, what is my particular situation? Where do I live? What's the environment? Will I be able to maintain this whip over the long term? Because kangaroo whips, if they're wet a lot, you can snap a fall, things like that. So if you are in an extremely wet environment, synthetic whips are probably a better option. If you have, like I do, we have grass pretty much year round. We have several months a year where you can go out and the grass is dry and nice. I can have both. I can have kangaroo and I can have synthetic, which is great because I do love both. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, I stick with kangaroo whips for targeting just because they tend to be a little bit more accurate. When it comes to wrapping and grabbing, the reason I stick with kangaroo is because this is a nylon fall. If you try to wrap and grab something, it typically just comes right off. Whereas if you have a kangaroo with a leather fall, you're going to grab something, it'll wrap, and because of the friction of the leather, it will tend to hold on to it much better. So I did already mention a little bit about maintenance of whips. With synthetic whips, it's almost nothing. They don't ever have to be conditioned. All you basically have to do is hang them up to dry if they're a little bit wet, change the cracker. That's pretty much it. Now, when it comes to kangaroo whips, it's a little different. If you have a brand new bullwhip, there is no reason to condition it for at least the first 6 months because it's already been conditioned during the process of making it. There's different philosophies on how often to treat a whip. I only do it twice a year. Some people only do it once a year. If you have a brand new whip, you can start at 6 months and then every 6 months thereafter, condition it. If you have one, let's say you bought one used, maybe it's been hanging on a wall or in a closet for 10 years. Maybe it's a little dry. You might have to condition it 2 or 3 times. Condition it, let it sit, use it, condition it again, use it that way, and then let it go. See how it goes for a while. Make sure it's not dried out still in a month. If it is, add another thin coat. That's all you have to do. And then once you get it to that nice supple spot, then every 6 months, condition it. That's all you've got to do. Now that's the entire whip. Pretty much every time I have a whip cracking session, I will condition the fall, because that will make the fall last a whole lot longer than if you don't. So just put a light coat pretty much every time you have a session, and you can get a lot of wear out of one of these falls, because they're really great. They're quite resilient if you do condition them. So that's pretty much it for conditioning that I want to discuss. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to use because everyone has their own opinion on it, and I'm not going to get into that prior patch. So what I will say is, when you're going to condition a whip, just make sure it's dry. If you've been out and it's a tiny bit wet, tiny bit, and you put conditioner on top of that, it will seal in that moisture and it will rot the whip. It's really bad for it. So just make sure that it's set for a day or two. Make sure it's totally dry before you condition it. That way you're conditioning good, dry leather and not soaking in moisture that will damage the whip. Easy breezy. So I'm sure most people that are into whip cracking at all know that every time you crack the whip, you are creating a small sonic boom. The speed of sound is somewhere around 768 miles per hour, depending on which. And I have read that this cracker, when it does pierce that sound barrier, is going over 900 miles per hour. So this cracker is going faster than the speed of sound, creates that small sonic boom. Well, because of that, these things take an incredible amount of energy and force, okay? That's why they wear out fairly quickly. Pretty much every session, you're going to have to replace a cracker if you use it very much. The fall takes a whole lot of energy too. You're creating a sonic boom. It's a lot of energy going through there. Basically, the energy comes from the universe. It comes through your beautiful body, travels through your arm, down into the whip, all the way down the thong, through the fall, and finally it gets to this very tassel of the cracker, and it breaks that sound barrier, and it is the most beautiful thing in the world. I just love it. I've gotten some questions before about how to break in a whip. You don't break in a whip. You just use it. Over time, it will loosen up. It'll feel like yourself because it will develop muscle memory to how you crack. You will develop muscle memory with that particular whip. So you don't need to, when you get it, you don't need to exercise it. You don't need to move it around. It will loosen up over time and it will feel wonderful. Just let it go. And don't ever coil them very tightly. I've seen people really coil them tightly. Oh, I'm going to loosen this up. Oh my God, don't do that. Every whip has a nice, natural way that they want to coil. And just leave it nice and loose. Just nice. That's how this one wants to coil. And it is a beauty. So that's pretty much it about breaking in a whip. You don't break it in. It just loosens up over time. Just use it and have fun with it. So the storage of bullwhips is very simple. Just keep them in a nice, dry, cool place. Hopefully somewhere in the house that's temperature controlled, where you don't have huge fluctuations of heat and cold and humidity and all that. And you want to make sure you don't put them in an attic or something like that where animals can get at them, because animals love that kangaroo hide. Well, there you have it. The most random, hodgepodge, cobbled together whip instruction video you've probably ever seen. I do hope you enjoyed it because I had a whole lot of fun making it. If you would like to contact me with any questions, you can reach me on Facebook Messenger at Keith Smith. I'm also on Instagram at keithsmith2020. Until next time, keep cracking.